Hey, what's up, fellas? My name is Nathan, and I'm here with my other friend,
Nathan.
Yeah, and we're glad you checked in to this episode. In this episode, we sat down with a gentleman by the name of Chris Rue. Chris Rue's on staff here at Little Country Church and an elder and oversees facilities as well as our men's ministry. And so it was important to sit with him and glean from him as a father, and I had a good time chatting with him.
Yeah, it was really a great conversation, and today we're going to learn about regret as a father, and that's something I think a lot of us can relate to. And so let's hear from Chris about their own regrets in his parenting and sort of how he overcame them, and maybe get some advice on how we can overcome some of the regrets in our life.
Love it. Hope you guys enjoy.
Thanks.
I think first things first. What was your experience like having a father? Did you have a dad?
I did not have a father.
I mean, I guess technically everyone has a father. We were laughing about this earlier. Everyone has a father. But like, was your father in the picture? Was he not? What was that like for you?
My father was not in the picture at all. I can remember meeting my father twice.
Okay.
And so when my mom was pregnant with me, I guess is when he left, and he had another family. So I have a half brother, step brother, or whatever that is. That's the same age that I am. And when I was about 5 years old, I can remember being super excited and going over to his house. Okay. It was the first time I remember him. The only memory I really have of him as a kid. And I went over there, and I remember going into the room with his other son. And then we were playing, and his son bit me. And I punched him.
Yeah, I love it.
And then my dad grabbed me up by my arm. He threw me in the vehicle, and he took me home, and I never saw him again. Until I was an adult.
Okay.
And then when I was an adult, I got a DUI.
Okay.
And I actually went into the holding tank, and police officers were kind of laughing and going, "Hey, do you know a Tom Rue?" And I'm like, "Yeah, that's my dad." And they said, "Oh, well, he's here too. It must run in the family." And
no way.
I'm like, and they said, "Do you want to go in the same holding tank?" And my first response was, "No, I don't want to be in there at all."
Right.
And then a few minutes while I was going through the booking process, I went in there. I said, "Yeah, go ahead, stick me in there." And so they took me over there, and they opened up the door, and they yelled his name, and they're like, "Hey, your son's in here." And he named off all of his other kids.
Oh my goodness.
And then they said, "No, Chris." And he said, "I don't have a son named Chris." And I was like, "Okay, that's it." So I went in there, I laid in there, and he was pretty out of it. And that.
Okay.
How old were you at this point?
I think I was 22 at this point. And then so when we got released, he got released just a few minutes before I did, and he was out there on the phone. There was a payphone out there, and he was on that. And I walk out, and he sees me, and he just kind of looks at me and nods his head, and he just says, "Take care of yourself." And that was it.
Do you think he knew?
Yeah,
he knew. That moment.
He knew in that moment,
right?
You know what I mean? But it was just kind of. But that's the only relationship I had with my father.
So you've had two like personal encounters with your father in your lifetime. The one time was punching your half brother.
Yep.
And the other time was in a holding cell.
And that's it.
And that was the last time you saw him. You haven't seen him since?
I haven't seen him since, and he's passed since.
Okay.
So there'll be no more.
So did you have a father or a father figure growing up? Did mom marry, remarry? Was there anything like that?
Did remarry and all that stuff, but my mom was a single mom.
Okay.
For the most part, and
just you, or did you have other siblings?
No, I have a older brother and an older sister.
Okay,
and then but my mom grew up on the wild side. My whole childhood, I was running around with bikers and all that stuff. So I grew up in Redding.
Okay,
and at that time it's Central Valley, it's Shasta Lake now. But so I can remember having birthday parties in the Shasta Dam Club. As a kid.
Really?
Yeah, my 8-year-old birthday party was in the bar. Really? It was so. My mom hung around a lot of bikers at that. Okay. And so that was my environment as I grew up. She married a biker and then divorced a biker and then married another biker and divorced another biker. And so that was I would say most of my respect and parenting and all that stuff came from my grandparents. So when I was younger, my brother and sister were, my brother is 4 years older and my sister is 6 years older. Okay. So they were out just running around right into that scene. And I was running around in that scene as well. You're kind of in that habitat, so you're kind of stuck there. But I spent a lot of weekends with my grandparents, just hanging out with them. And that's, I would say I got more parenting from my grandparents than I did anyone else.
So were your grandparents believers, or did you have any believers in your sort of upbringing?
My grandma was Catholic. So she used to go to St. Joseph's, I think it is, here and all that stuff. And then she stopped going there for whatever reason. I was younger, so I don't really remember what the reason was or anything. But I can remember that there was like a traveling priest or father that would travel around, and he would come to her house every once in a while on a day, and they would do mass and just do their stuff. But that was about the extent of any type of religion or God aspect or anything like that.
So where did you draw, if you did, like any experience or knowledge from being a dad or being a father? Or did you?
Wow. I made a lot of mistakes. I'll just put that out on the forefront right now, because I was running the streets and doing different things. And
well, it's all you knew, right?
That's all I knew. Yeah. It's what I grew up with. So I think if I drew,
like, was Grandpa a good father figure?
Grandpa was a great guy. Grandpa, I had a lot of respect for my grandpa, and you were taught respect from that generation. Yeah, for sure.
So, whether you wanted to learn it or not, you were taught respect.
It only took one switch. You learned a lot of respect in that aspect. But so I think a lot of it, honestly, though, just came from the world and from the streets, just things that I experienced. And, it wasn't that there wasn't men in the house.
Sure.
And that, but I never called anybody dad.
Okay.
There was not that type of relationship where you felt close or you felt accepted, just felt like this was all right, we're a family type of thing.
Did you ever feel a point, and if you did, like, when was this, when you thought, like, this is like different than everybody else, I don't have a dad, and like I want a dad? And when did you really feel like that hole,
Wow, I would probably say it was somewhere around when I was 12 or 13.
When you started to recognize.
Yeah, when I really started recognizing that, what it would mean to have a dad. And maybe the view of what I was missing out of by not having, a father in the house or a dad there to do it. And that was really, I experienced that when I started going to church with my best friend. And so my best friend, he kind of grew up in the same atmosphere. His dad and mom split up, and his mom and my mom were good friends. That's how we became best friends.
Yeah,
and that. So they're running around in the same crowd and doing all that stuff. So I think when I started going to church as a teenager is when I really started noticing that, wow, these people, these other kids I'm interacting with have dads and people that really care about them. You know what I mean? That spent time with them, that did things, to where, so I'd say somewhere around that age.
And so when that sort of happened, what was your sort of response? And so what I mean was when sort of I kind of, my dad was in the house, but he was just a little different. He was gone in a different way. And when I had that realization that I didn't have the dad that I thought I should have had, like, my response was I just got super angry. I got super angry and I got super rebellious, and like that was the way that I sort of put up my wall so I wouldn't get hurt, right? So when that happened for you and you sort of realize, hey, people have maybe normal dads or good dads and I don't have any dad, like, what was your reaction? Did it drive you further into the church, or did it maybe drive you like further into the like lifestyle you were already sort of involved in?
I think at first it drove me into the church, and it felt a connection because there were some really great men there that I I was doing things I shouldn't be at that young age. I was drinking already at that age, and I was wearing the Levi jacket. I had the full mullet, just doing all kinds of things I shouldn't be. But these men came and picked me up. They came out of their way with their family, with their kids that were my same age, and picked this guy up that's wearing, that's just not doing things he should be doing, this other kid. And he picked me up, and they would take me to church every Sunday. And then they'd pick me up and they would take me to youth group. And it's at youth group where I think that I really started digging in, and that's where I was baptized in that. And then I think just over time of seeing what everybody else had, then I started really seeing what I didn't have at that point. And then I think that's when there was a few events that happened in there that just in life. I walked in on my mom trying to commit suicide. And then, so the first thing I did is I called that family. And they came and picked me up, and they took me. But
the church family,
the one
that would pick you up,
picked me up in that, and they took me to church. They took me over to my best friend's house, and they did a bunch of stuff, But I think it was after that point that I started getting angry. It was like, why is it that I don't have anything?
Right.
Because I think it was at that point that I really felt like I don't have a family.
Right.
I mean, there's no family, and I'm getting the picture of what a family is. And the joy that comes from family. So I think that's where I first started getting angry. And then as I went through high school, it got worse because my dad lived in town and he was here. And I went to school with my half brother, and I would hear all the stuff of what they're doing. They're going hunting, they're going fishing. He's buying them cars. They're doing all this stuff. And my mom's on welfare. I've got nothing. If I want anything, I'm mowing lawns and doing different things. And I think that's when it really dug in.
It's even worse because it's right in your face.
Yeah, you're like so close, but still so far away.
Well, and there was no way I was ever going to have that.
Yeah. Right.
Was that thinking at that point in time. I don't have a family.
Right.
And you just go, ooh, that's a tough one. So I think that's when it turned to anger. And I pulled away from the church, and I just went straight to the streets. And then so I was 15 when my mom came to me and said that she didn't pay the rent because she was on welfare and that, but she didn't pay the rent, and that she was getting evicted, and she was going to live with a friend, and there was no room for me. I would have to figure out where to go.
Wow.
And at that point in time, that's where I went over to my buddy's Jesse's house, and his mom just adopted me in. Yeah, took me in.
Ugh.
So
kind of to like Nathan's question about your response, did this drive you to want to be a dad? Like to want to be the man in someone else's life that you didn't have? Or did it scare you of ever being a dad because I don't even know what that looks like? I never had one myself.
I think it scared me.
Scared you?
Yeah. I think it scared me, and I just thought, I wouldn't even know the first thing to do. I was never around anything to really know what was happening in that. And so I think it scared me, but I always said too that I would always be in my kid's life. I think that's when you grow up this way and you experience stuff like this. I would almost say that's the number one thing that men that have grown up in that environment have that mentality is, I don't care if I'm ever with a mom. I don't care what happens. I will always be in contact with my kids no matter what. Because, again, when you come from the streets, the idea of divorce isn't the church aspect. It's just like you can drive through and drive out, and if that one doesn't work, I was raised with the community I was raised in with the bikers and all that stuff. The women held really low value. For an extent. So it was just, if this one wasn't working out, you just,
find a new girl.
Yeah, you find a new girl. It's, if they're not doing what you want to, you get another one. They're disposable. They're interchangeable. They're just, and so you just kind of grow up in that environment, and you really, honestly, just don't know anything else.
Yeah. And so how many kids do you have?
So I have 2 biological.
Okay.
Because this is another cause of growing up like this, is I ended up in a divorce and that myself. But we have 5 kids now. I've been married to my wife now for, Oh, I better know this
Uh-oh.
answer.
Get this right.
For
We'll
16
edit
years,
this out,
and we've
don't
been
worry.
together for 20 years.
Yeah.
So we have 5 kids, and I have a good relationship with all of them.
Yeah.
This is going to sound weird, probably, but I probably have the best relationship with one of my non-biological kids.
Huh.
But I think that's just from the experience of she was with us for the longest time
Okay.
when we were walking with the Lord. So
okay.
she has more.
She the
of that.
youngest?
She is.
Okay.
Yeah. She's the youngest in that. So, and it's not that I don't have a close relationship
Right.
with the others or there's any other love or anything,
Right.
but there's the bond there for some reason. And I really would say that's because I learned how to be a man.
Okay.
And I learned how to be a dad.
So you
and I
were-
learned how to be a father.
Yeah, so she got the most time with you when you were a good father.
Absolutely.
And so
Yes.
that it brings up an interesting question. So talk maybe a little bit about how being plugged into Jesus, I guess that's how I would put it, how walking with Jesus sort of influences your ability to be a good dad.
Man, it changed everything. I can told myself I will not get emotional during this thing here, but we'll see
we can
what
edit out
happens.
this.
It's okay. It's just audio only. No one will see it.
When I really started, so I was saved at a younger age, and then I walked away from the Lord. And then when I got with my wife now, Chris, we started coming to church. And then when we just said, okay, we're digging into church, and that's a long process in itself. It's like you don't just come to church. Well, some people do. We didn't just come to church and then had the drastic change and then was on fire for Jesus 100% and did anything, I'm ashamed to say, but I think it's important that people know so they know that you're always accepted at the church. I came to church drunk as I was looking for God, as I was trying to walk through this process, and that's not to glorify drinking or anything, but that's to let people know that Jesus says you're accepted who you are and where you are. Mm-hmm. And I can say that as a true statement because I was accepted in the condition I was in. But over time, as I started learning that I have a father in heaven, that I always had a father, that's when it started changing. That's when I understood that I could receive love. Because when you grow up without a dad and your mom's kind of, not on the straight path and all that stuff, that's one of the things that I think is really missing is that aspect of accepting love for what real love is. Not because somebody wanted something or needed something, but it was just because I love you for you.
Yeah.
Just a real love. So when we started really getting into the church and understanding, I started understanding that I have somebody that loves me. I have somebody that's always loved me.
And was that easy for you to comprehend? I mean, when you just in language alone, to speak of God as a father, the images you have of what a father is or has been probably isn't very positive.
No.
Right? So it's probably kind of difficult in your personal experience to even picture what a good father should be. Maybe you saw images in the families around you, but when you heard that God was a father, was that easy for you to accept? Because was it like, oh, this is the thing I've been waiting for or wanting my whole life, or was it like, is he going to bail on me? Does he really love me? Does he own me? Will he acknowledge he loves me?
It was more of that aspect of you're always a little cautious. You have those walls that are built up. Yep, you're guarded. And just growing up the way I grew up, I say on the streets, and that's just because that's where I ran around and all that stuff. And when my mom kicked me out, I went to live with my friend, but it wasn't long after that they lost their house and we were on the streets. We were living in little secondhand hotels and motels and different things. And so when you do that you build walls because out there, everybody just wants something.
It's a survival mechanism. Yeah.
You're doing it. So it took a while to really understand that God would love me. My father just loved me. And then what was really hard to grasp that and understand is because of all the bad things that I've done. And even as I was a father, because, we had the kids and boy, did I mess that stuff up. You know what I mean? But it took a while to really let that sink in. And then even though it sunk in and I knew it in my mind and I believed it, it was still really hard to accept it, to like fully accept it in my heart. Like, like I've got a dad.
Well, you have decades of like a past history to sort of overcome, and thinking patterns that you grew up developing that you have to just overcome. And it's so weird sometimes, like when you get into church, it's like, oh, you have a father, that God loves you. And you're like, well, I don't even know what a father really is. And frankly, I don't even know what love is, you know, and it's hard to just sort of, it takes a while sometimes to have your brain sort of understand these things. And for some people, I don't really even know if they will fully understand. I mean, I say for most of us, we probably won't fully understand the Father's love until we get to heaven. It's just, and especially people who grow up without a father and without a lot of love, it wasn't ingrained in you young, right? So you're starting fresh, trying to learn these things as an adult. Right. And that takes time.
Yeah. And then I think especially because, talking and thinking just about the mistakes as a dad of not knowing what a father really was, and then the things that I said I never wanted to do with my kids, some of those things started coming into play. You know, how do you discipline your kids? How do you never wanted to yell at the kids. The last thing I ever want to do is yell at the kids, but some of those things just start coming out. You know, you get angry, you lose it.
Let's dig at that.
Just kind of.
Let's talk about that for a second.
Yeah. So
go ahead, Nathan.
The most terrifying thing that can happen to you is when you start doing things and saying things that your dad did. And so I'm like you, Chris, where it's like, you know, I think people can
even more so if they're the negative things, right?
Yeah,
is that what you're talking about? Like sometimes you do things and you're like, oh my goodness, I sound exactly like my dad, and that's more embarrassment.
Yeah, of course. But like, you know, it's like, I think you could go two ways. You can either become, you know, if you have a less than perfect dad, right? You can either, a lot of people become like their dad, right? If they just they fall into that pattern. But I think like, you know, for you were like, hey, I saw what my dad didn't do, and I'm not going to be anything like that. I'm going to do the opposite. And so I could kind of relate to that. But what terrifies me is when I start to do negative things that my dad would do as a dad, also as a husband, but like as a dad, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like this is scary stuff. And so fatherhood is failure, right? It's regrets, because we're all doing things in our own nature, and like you're doing things that frankly like are a little bit out of your control because it's the nature part of you. You were raised like this, and so some of it you can't help doing because you were broken, right? And so now you're acting it out sometimes, and you're still a work in progress, right?
Right.
So maybe like talk a little bit about some of the things maybe that you kind of found yourself doing, and that you would be like, oh, I can't believe I'm doing this, or this reminds me of my dad, or like, you know, some of the early things you did, maybe how some of that stuff changed as you kind of as you furthered your walk with Jesus. And because we would love to hear him, because I'm by the way, like I'm like failing like every single day. And I was telling Nathan, like, none of us have done fatherhood before, especially when you have your first kid. Nobody knows what they're doing. It's all a rough draft. Nobody's ever done anything for the first time and been like, yep, did it, perfect.
Well, and maybe even more of a rough draft for Chris, as he didn't, you didn't grow up with a dad to even see an example.
Right.
I mean, there's an example you don't want,
exactly,
which is not being around.
Right.
But all you know is like, you don't even know what it looks like to be around in many ways.
And I think just because of the experience of the men that were in the house at that time, and, you know, off and on in different times, that what I saw most of the time was fighting and screaming and yelling. You know what I mean? And again, when I finally had kids, when I had my first daughter, I was like, oh my goodness, you know, this little girl, I'm like, I'm gonna break her. This is terrifying. You know what I mean? And then you have this, or at least I had this thing of like, man, I want to protect her. Yeah. I want to make sure no one ever yells at her. And all these things that I wanted to put into place that would never happen to her, I slowly started doing to her. I started yelling at her, you know what I mean? I started losing my temper. I was drinking. So myself and my ex-wife would be arguing in that, and the kids would hear it, and just all these things that I never wanted my kids to experience that I grew up, you know, because I heard my mom and them yelling a lot. I heard, you know, my mom was hit times and stuff. I mean, you just grow up in that environment and you go, man, I absolutely do not want to do this with my kids, but I didn't know anything else.
Yeah.
And that's not an excuse, you know. And I did that. I had to own that stuff, you know what I mean? But I think the one of the biggest things that I really didn't want to do is I said I always wanted to be there for my kids, and then that slowly transgressed into I always want to provide for my kids. And then so what I started doing was, because I grew up without having anything unless I worked for it, I'm like, I swung the pendulum to the other way. So it was like, I'm going to go out and work, and I'm going to buy my kids everything, and I'm going to spoil them. They're going to have all this stuff. And then what that turned into was I wasn't home. So the one...
But which was your first thing?
My main thing that I never wanted to do was not be there for my kids.
Right.
But then I walked right into that thing of working 7 days a week, 12 hours a day. And if I wasn't doing that, then I'm drinking because I didn't want to go home. And just the abandonment aspect of that I put on my kids, which was the number, I would say, was the thing that scarred me as a kid the most, was there was just nobody. You just
Dad
feel
not being
alone.
there.
Yeah. Well, even mom. I mean, mom was there
too.
half the time, but not very often. She's out running around.
Sure.
You know, I spent more time with my brother and my sister than I did my mom too.
Yeah.
You know, it was that thing that I really, you know how you tell yourself, I do not want to do this. I want to be the person that's going to be there. And then it just slowly starts slipping away. But as it's slipping away, you're thinking you're doing the right thing. Because I'm like, what do I need to do? I need to provide for my kids. I want to make sure, you know, I grew up on welfare and using food stamps, and I got made fun of all the time. I never got to go to events and do all this stuff. And I'm like, my kids are going to wear the good clothes. My kids are going to have lunch money.
Yeah.
If my kids want to stop at the store, you know what I mean? They're going to be able to do it. And that becomes a priority where I just missed it, where I say, like, I swung the pendulum all the way to the other side, but I missed the key point of, you know what they really needed?
Just to
Dad.
be there. Yeah.
Just dad. Yeah.
They just needed dad. They didn't care about that stuff. They didn't care about all that stuff. What they cared about is, Dad, where's your time?
It's so hard for guys because guys are like, solution, like, right, if I make money, then my kids will be there. And it's so harder for guys to just be like, I'm just going to be there.
Yep.
I'm just going to be there,
be present,
and just be present. And, you know, we like to do stuff.
Maybe it wasn't a singular moment, or maybe it was. What was the moment of, like, I was going to say sobriety, not, that may be a pun or not a pun. Maybe it was a literal moment of sobriety. But what was the moment of awakening for you where you realized, like you just said, I was doing the thing I didn't want to do, and I didn't even realize I was doing it. So how did you come to realize it, that I missed it?
Right. Well, I think.
And then, second part is, how did you deal with that in the moment? Kind of talking about regret.
Right.
Like, how did you deal with that regret in the moment? Or maybe it's dealing with it later on in life when your kids are older or you're older. I don't know.
That's pretty much what it is.
Yeah. Okay.
So, but even in the moment, because this is where I struggle too, it's like, how do you deal with the self-loathing? Do you know what I mean? Like, when you do something to somebody else who you love more than the world, like your daughter, right? You love your daughter more than the world. You're like, I never want her to ever feel like I feel. And then you slip into this place where you find yourself doing that. Like, I've definitely been there. That's just like a place where I just, like, you know, it's so much self-loathing. And how do you dig yourself out of that hole?
Okay. I think we've got 3 questions in there. How did you come to realize you weren't present? And when you started dealing with that regret, how did you deal with the self-loathing side of that? And then how did you correct course? And or if you corrected course? 3 questions.
Yes.
Is that 3?
Bullet points.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think I started recognizing that I was wasn't being present with the kids when I stopped drinking.
Okay.
And so when I stopped drinking, God has been so good to me that I know a lot of people that have to go to programs and do different things and that. I was literally in the bathroom one time with my wife, and we were getting ready to go buy a dog. And
Which is kind of just another kid, let's be honest.
Yeah.
All the pet people out there, those are just kids.
yeah, it's a rough kid too.
It's a lot of money and time. That's how I feel.
But somehow she brought up, because she had quit drinking already and all that stuff, and we were coming to church, and but like I said, I was still drinking. I didn't give that up. I figured I could come in on Sunday and things are fine. The rest of the week I'll just go back to doing what I was doing. And we're at the bathroom sink getting ready to go out, and I had a beer in my hand. We're getting ready to go get a dog, and she mentioned something about me being addicted. And that has always struck a nerve with me. I'm like, I always insisted I was never addicted. I always fell into that trap of, I'm a functioning alcoholic at worst. I've got a job.
Yeah, worst.
Yeah, I have a job, and we have money, and things are fine.
How dare you? I'm drinking a beer, not vodka.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Totally different morning.
Yeah.
And I said, no. I said, well, everybody's addicted to something. And I said, you're addicted to coffee. And the words, without even thinking it, came out of my mouth and said, I could quit drinking beer quicker and easier than you could quit drinking coffee.
Ooh.
And she looked at me and said, I'll take you up on that.
Wow.
And you're like,
Nope. I literally just took the beer. I poured half of it out down the sink, and I set it down, and that was it.
And that was it.
God took it away.
That was it. That was the last time you ever.
That was the last time I drank.
Wow.
But God took it away. I've been drinking since I was
12, 13, what'd you say? Yeah,
12.
teenager, yeah.
My 16th birthday, my brother bought me cases of alcohol, and we just played, drinking games and did all this stuff. And even as an adult, I was going to work, and being a painter, I was very unsupervised. I'd just go to work, do what I wanted to. So we would just, most of the time, we'd stop by the liquor store before we went to the job to make sure that we had our 12-pack on ice, work a couple hours.
Just drinking and painting houses.
Yeah, and I'd drink at 10 o'clock in the morning every day. Every day. So I think once that happened, where I poured that beer out and said that was it, God really just showed me how that was affecting my kids and how I was putting that alcohol or that beer in front of my children. And I think that was part of what really, God just took it away. All glory to God. But I think that stayed in my mind of like, that beer, it could be the kids or it could be that beer. What did I want it to be? And then it was just like, I want my kids. I love my kids. But then you get into the aspect of as that clarity starts coming in, and this kind of speaks onto the aspect of what if when you do something that you just didn't want to do. I've come home drunk before, and I've yelled at my kids and then just went, man, over something stupid, dude.
Yeah.
Just the dumbest thing, but had a rough day, everything, and they might have just did you do
I do
your
that
homework?
sober. I don't even drink. I do that sober.
Did you do your homework? No. Why didn't you do your homework? You know you're supposed to do your homework.
Yeah,
I told you not to touch your phone before you do this. Give me your phone. You take it, and then you walk away and you go, oh my goodness, why did I do that? So then I had kind of just accepted that I was just going to be a failure dad. I didn't have a dad. I don't know how to be a dad. I'm just going to... I sucked at it, and when you're sober and you remember a lot of the stuff you did when you were drinking, that's where the shame comes in, and the shame sits there, and that's kind of going along with the self-loathing or whatever, but it was just shame.
And you just let it just build.
It just sits in there, and I'm coming to church and I'm digging deeper into God, you know what I mean? And God's healing me in a lot of places and all that stuff, but that hung on. That one hung on because I remember all the stuff I did to my kids. I remember the pain that I inflicted on the ones that I loved the most, and that from when I knew I was going to have a kid, and even before that, I was like, I don't want to hurt my kids. I don't want my kids to grow up with the pain that I had.
Yeah.
And then I can remember when that changed. God has been so good to me on so many levels. So I've been coming to church here and that, and was going up to a family camp.
Okay.
And Mike Decker asked me if I'd do one of the teachings. And I was like, I had been volunteering in K-Zone for a while and dealing with the kids because I'm just a big kid, ask my wife. And so I'm like, man, the first teaching of adults, and stuff. I'm like, I don't know if I'm ready for this, but I said yes. And then so I go up there and, we're kind of, I guess we'll say high maintenance. We didn't camp. We stayed in a hotel.
Bougie campers. Not even glampers. It's not even really glamping, I think. That's just
hotel.
That's just a hotel.
I don't even know if I was camping.
Oh, that's how
really.
I like to camp like that, though. It's pretty real.
But I had, so we have 4 girls and a son. So at this point in time, we had our 4 girls. Our oldest daughter had a daughter, so we had our granddaughter with us. And our son was in prison. And he was in a fire camp up in Crescent City. And so we were going over to the coast to do the camp out and that for the family camp. And so the morning that I was supposed to teach, I was going to do the morning teaching. So I woke up and we left the hotel. And at that time, David Crowder song came out where he did the Oh, How He Loves. And so I'm like, that was a song that just really touched me, that God, love, imagine that. A song with love really touches. But so I asked my kids, I'm like, hey, can I just play this a couple of times on the way there just to prepare my heart for the teaching and all that stuff?
Because you had kids in the car.
Yeah, all our
Going to the
kids and
teaching.
everything
Okay,
stayed.
yeah.
So there was my 4 daughters and my granddaughter, my wife, and myself. So we were driving over to the site. And we get there and I'm standing on the side and my kids go sit down. They kind of scatter out with the other kids and stuff. And I'm standing by my wife and the worship music starts. And the first song comes on and I'm like, this is great. And then the second comes on. And then they started playing that song in the worship set of just, oh, how he loves. And it still gets me today. So they're playing that song, and all my kids just come up running up to me, because we're going to do this teaching, and then we're going to drive up and see our son in the prison camp. And, sorry. So all my kids come up, hug me, say another prayer right before I go up and teach. And I go to step up there to teach. And I just felt God tell me that the dad I used to be is dead. And I no longer had to live in that shame or in that pain. And that I could be the dad that I wanted to be because I could be the dad that he created me to be. And at that point right there, it was like I could just feel God take that whole weight and that shame that I was carrying from knowing of what I caused to my kids.
Right.
The pain I caused, that he was just taking it away. And then after the teaching, all my girls came up crying and just hugging me and loving me. And it was just, it was gone. It was awesome. Like, I can be the dad that God created me to be. It's not too late, because that's what I thought. Yeah. I just figured with all the stuff that I put them through and all the pain that I caused them, 1, there'd be no way they could forgive me. And then 2, how? How could I be a dad that I didn't even know how to be? How could I get past the pain and how could I forgive myself? But at that point in time, God just said, it's done. It's over. And that changed my life. At that moment, I don't know if everybody's had moments in their life where they go that God changed my life.
Right. That was like a mile marker. That was
I will never forget that. It tears me up now just to think about it. I hear that song playing. If people are around, I can kind of hold it in. But if I'm in the truck by myself and all that stuff, and I just start thinking about God, it just sends me. I have no control because I know what God did. And And I know that he healed that. And he didn't just heal me. He healed my kids. And I could tell by the way that they came up and were crying and hugging me that they forgave me and that they weren't carrying that anymore.
Yeah, that's a big part. Like knowing that your kids forgive you, that allows you to forgive yourself.
Absolutely.
Right? Because you could never do that without it. So how did, so after that moment, like how did things change like right away? Or, I mean, was it a process or did your mindset change or like, what has it been like since then?
I think since then I could really accept like you said, I don't know if we can ever accept the true love of God and really grasp how much God loves me. But at that point in time, I felt like I could receive God's love, that I don't want to use the word worthy of his love, but that I think at that point it healed me in the aspect of not ever really being able to receive love for what true love is. You know, I knew that, you know, my kids loved me, you know, but I broke them.
Yeah.
I mean, that's reality. I mean, you think about that stuff. You go, I broke my kids. I broke my kids.
Yeah, I do
That's
that all the
like
time.
The worst thing I could do is I broke my kid.
Oh man.
Yeah, I think about like, oh my gosh, all the therapy they're going to have when they're older. Do you ever
yeah.
think about that? Like, oh gosh, I pray all the time sometimes. Oh Lord, please like undo like the like emotional damage that I'm doing to my kids.
Yeah.
My kids are older than that. So all my kids now have kids.
Yeah.
So, you know, I'm an older guy and I have all the grandkids and that, but some of my kids have had to have therapy. You know, I have one daughter who is still in the chains of alcohol. Yeah. And, you know, we pray for her all the time and talk to her and try to help her out, and she's quit. And you know, that plays puts a lot of different thoughts in your mind, I guess. 'Cause I go, God, why? Why would you just allow me to grab that and pour it out and never be addicted to it again and never have any desire for it again? But my kid who grew up with me drinking, that's in that bondage, that generational bondage of alcohol, she just can't seem to get away from it. And you just go, why, Lord? But I don't know why. But I know one day he'll do the same thing for her. I believe that. It may look a little different, and she may have to go through it a few times in that, but
Yeah.
God's got a plan and a purpose. But
Yeah, for sure.
So Chris, what would be like to Nathan and myself and or other dads and fathers listening who are living with regret, right? Maybe to the depths of not being physically present, to the depths of, or the others. I don't know if there's any sides, but, man, I yelled at my kid and I didn't want to yell at my kid. That was a bummer. That was silly. I'm just losing sleep and eating poorly. Whatever the reason is the reason. But what would your advice be and encouragement to us, like how to correct that regret? Like how to move forward in these failures that we find ourselves in regards to regret.
As soon as you realize that, go and hug them and apologize. That was one of the biggest things of, I think, you know, just growing up the way I did, you never apologized.
Okay.
Do you apologize? That was a sign of weakness.
And
you just didn't have any weakness. And that's one of the things that took me a long time to understand how powerful it is to just go in and apologize to your kid. It's like, man, I did not want to, you know, and just love on them. Just love on them.
That's good.
It's, you know, I still do that now, you know.
I was going to ask, is it ever too late to
It's
apologize?
never-
Like your kids are old. They got kids, you know, you're a grandpa.
I've still apologized as they're walking through some of the stuff they're doing now. I will still apologize to my kids for teaching them those things, because they learned some of those traits from me. There's just no way. Just like I learned how to do the things I did, and they picked up those bad habits and that, and I'll be like, man, I am so sorry. And they'll ask me, what do I do? I'm like, go in and hug your kid. Go in and hug your kid and apologize and just explain to them that we're not perfect people. Nobody's perfect. Jesus is the only perfect one. But go in and hug them. Tell them you're sorry. That was a tough thing for me to do at first. You know, I don't know why. I think it was just a pride issue and just growing up the way I did. But you didn't apologize for things,
And or probably you didn't see it modeled at all, if not at all, very well.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like it's so hard to like apologize because it is a pride issue, and also I think we don't want to admit we're wrong, and we especially don't want to admit we're wrong to our kids.
Right.
Because I think maybe that's one of the problems, and I know we've talked about this.
Yeah.
It's like it's okay to like let your kids know that you're infallible, right?
Yeah,
that
yeah,
you
that
make
you're not
mistakes
perfect.
and you're not perfect. And I thought my dad was perfect, and so every time like he did something wrong, I thought it was me because it couldn't have been him because he was perfect. But like now, we do the same thing. We just go into our kids, and I'd rather them know that, hey, we're not perfect. I make mistakes. I've never done this before. And they might look at me maybe a little bit like, no, Dad, you're a little goofy, or you're a little weak even. But like, I don't want to have to live under the pressure of always having to be perfect for them.
Right.
You know what I mean? I don't want that kind of pressure. That kind of pressure is just like too much pressure.
Go ahead, Chris. Sorry.
I was just going to say, again, it is, kids are extremely smart.
Mm-hmm.
Kids I think are a lot smarter than we give them credit for. And I think that for the most part, most of them know we're not perfect because they see the stuff we do.
Yeah. Yeah.
But just being able to admit that you're wrong, and that models that out for them. So when they hurt somebody, they don't have that pride aspect. Mm-hmm. It just keeps that whole, there are so many things that are, I think that are just generational that we learn that we just keep doing and repeating. And, that was when I really started digging into God and just going, I'm done with my life. I've done messed that up. My path has just been wrong. God's given me an opportunity and set me on his path, and that it was, I want my kids to see that, to know that. But I pray all the time that those generational, and it's biblical. The Bible tells us the bonds are generational. It's going to happen. The chains are there. I pray all the time, Lord, please let this, if I'm not the one that's breaking those generational bonds, please let my kids break those so my grandkids don't have to go into that. Mm-hmm. But it takes work.
Yeah.
And it takes being humble. And my kids were older when I had to go and apologize to them for all the things. And I think the first thing they told me was, Dad, it's okay. Mm. And I go, no, that's a superficial thing there. I'm like, no, I hurt you.
Yeah.
I did. I put scars on you that I know you're still dealing with or going to be dealing with sometime down the road.
Yeah.
I'm sorry for that.
Yeah.
And to get to those conversations, it's difficult. So I think the sooner that men can put away their pride, and get to that point to where that we can just admit, because the world tells us all the time, it's all about me. This is the type of dad you're supposed to be in that. But if once you start digging into the Word and seeing who our Father is, and getting those examples of the man we're supposed to be, it's opposite of what the world says, and we're supposed to show the feelings towards our kids. Mm-hmm. We're supposed to show them that you love them. We're not supposed to be the other half of the marriage that's just discipline, and all that stuff. That's not what I get out of the Bible anyway. That's not what I'm reading and taking out of what I'm reading and knowing who my Father is, because I have a father, and that took a lot of years to get to that point where I can just confidently sit here in front of you guys right now and say, I have a father.
Yeah.
I grew up with a father.
Yeah.
I didn't know I grew up with a father.
Yeah.
But I can look back at so many times and just see where he's protected me as a father would. Mm-hmm. But I know that got onto a rabbit trail. Sorry.
No,
it's good.
And
no, I think that's
apologize to the kids. Just be real.
Yeah.
Just be real and be there.
Yeah.
I can tell you too, it is never too late to be there.
Yeah.
It is never too late. You have never, until you're 6 feet under,
Sure.
in this body anyways,
Yeah.
it is never too late to be there for your kids, to be there for your family. And that brings up a thought I had. Someone told me to have kids when I was young, so that way I'd be in my 40s when they were adults, so I wouldn't have to take care of them anymore.
Yeah.
I wish I knew who that was, because I'm like, you lied to me, man. You lied to me. You're a dad forever.
Yeah.
You're a dad. You have kids, you're a dad.
Yeah.
And if you're a dad forever, then it's never too late to correct some of those wrongs that you've done. And it's so freeing, and it's not just freeing for you. It's freeing for your kids. It's freeing for your kids. And again, hopefully that breaks that bondage, that generational bondage that's holding them back. And I do a lot of praying that they don't repeat all the stuff that I did.
Yeah. So regrets, we deal with them.
Yes.
But what I'm hearing is let's be quick to repent would be the churchy Bible word, quick to ask for forgiveness, quick to admit, I failed there.
Yeah.
Be soft. I think the world teaches, I mean, you know, this growing up with a bunch of bikers, like you don't show weakness, you don't show softness, but like when you look at it biblically, that's not how God treats us at all.
No.
He's super forgiving, super merciful, extremely patient when we're just idiots a lot of times. And that's hard to do sometimes as a guy with our kids, but
And he's always there.
Always there.
That is such a key thing to be there. The world tells you go make money, buy all this stuff, and do all that stuff. And I fell into that trap. And it's not all of the memories that our kids talk about were at the brokest times in our life. It amazes me. My wife and I will talk about this quite often. We go, man, I don't even know how we had the money to do these things that we did, but we were the brokest we've ever been. But every memory that they have are the ones when we had nothing, but we spent time with them.
That's awesome.
It was just being together as a family and spending time together.
That's so funny because even as a dad, like as a young dad, right? My oldest is 11. I think the same things. I was like, oh, back, you know, when we were like living in a tiny house and we were all jammed together and we didn't have any money, I look back and be like, those were the best days.
Yeah.
And it's just we were all together and
that's it right there.
You know,
together.
Yeah. So be soft. It's never too late.
It's never
right?
too late.
And so let me ask you, for those who maybe think it's too late, I don't know, maybe kids are out of the house, long out of the house, have kids of their own, and maybe the relationship wasn't great, and maybe you don't talk a lot or whatever it may be. What would you suggest? I mean, just a text message, a phone call?
Well, the first thing I'd do is pray. That's the most important thing, I think. I know that's really churchy, but there is so much power in pray. And I would just pray that the Lord would give me the words to speak out. Yeah. And I say that because that's what I had to do. That's what I did. And I would say, I know the new generation is text and all that stuff, but there is something behind the voice.
Yeah, especially
so I would say
parent,
call
right?
them.
Yeah.
Yes, for a parent. Yeah. It's part of that being present thing. I know text connects us and does all that stuff, but there's a loss in that somewhere.
Sure.
There's a disconnect.
Well, texting seems so impersonal.
Yes.
Especially from a parent, especially if you don't talk to that parent a lot and maybe you don't have a great relationship.
So I would say don't text. I would say if they're in the same town and in the same area or something, I would say the best thing to do is go to them. Mm-hmm. It is never too late for that, but go to them. And if you can't do that, pick up a phone and do a good old fashioned phone call where they can hear your voice, where they can, well, if it was me doing it, they could hear me cry on the other side of the phone. You know what I mean? But just there's something powerful about that voice to voice connection that happens.
That's fantastic. Chris, thank you.
Yeah. Thank you guys.
Thanks for pulling back the curtain, sharing with us some of your failures as a father and allowing us to learn and grow. And
there's been a lot of failures, but it's never too late.
Yeah.
That I think if anybody catches anything out of any of this, it is not too late. It is not too late. And if you do it, it'll change your world.
That's great. Thank you, man.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes, future has come.